Hi friends, welcome to Chasing English. Today we have a very special story for you, the true life story of Walt Disney. This is not only a story about cartoons, it's about dreams, hope, and never giving up. As you listen and read, you will also practice your English. If you read with us every day here on Chasing English, your English will get better, your vocabulary will grow, and you will feel more confident. So, let's begin together. The boy who lived inside a dream. Our story starts a long time ago. His full name was Walter Elias Disney. He was born on December 5, 1901, in Chicago, Illinois, USA. Walt was the fourth child in a big family. His father, Elias Disney, was a strict man. He worked hard but was often serious and sometimes angry. His mother, Flora Disney, was warm and gentle. She believed in Walt and loved his creative mind. When Walt was only 4 years old, the family moved to a small farm in a little town called Marceline, Missouri. This small town changed Walt's life forever. Why? Because it was full of green trees, cute animals, friendly neighbors, and a quiet train station. Walt loved to watch the trains pass by. He would dream of faraway places he had never seen. From a young age, he liked to imagine magical worlds. Walt also loved drawing. He drew on paper, on napkins, and even on walls. But his family was poor. He didn't have new pencils or sketchbooks. So he used charcoal sticks from the stove and drew on old newspapers. Yes, one of the greatest creators in history began with trash paper and burned wood sticks. One day, a neighbor saw Walt's drawing of a horse. She liked it so much that she gave him 5 cents to draw another one for her. That was the first money Walt ever earned as an artist. School, work, and hard times. Walt did not like school. He thought it was boring and too strict. The teachers told him to stop daydreaming. His father told him drawing was a waste of time. But Walt never stopped drawing. His family had little money. His father often lost jobs, so Walt and his brother Roy had to work, even when they were still children. At age 10, Walt delivered newspapers every morning at 4 a.m. In the cold winters of Missouri, he had no warm clothes. His hands would bleed from the cold. Sometimes he was so tired that he fainted at school. But still, he kept drawing. It was the one thing that made him happy. A young man in a big world. When World War I began, Walt wanted to join the army. But he was too young. So he changed his birth certificate to look older and joined the Red Cross Ambulance Corps instead. At just 16, he went to France to drive ambulances. Even there, in the middle of war, Walt drew cartoons on the side of his ambulance to make soldiers smile. This shows who Walt really was. Even in sad and dangerous times, he wanted to bring joy to others. When the war ended, Walt came back to America and said, "I will become an artist." He started drawing ads for newspapers at a small art studio in Kansas City. But Walt wanted more. He wanted to make moving cartoons, something new and exciting. With a friend, he opened his first company called Lafogram Studios. They made little fairy tale cartoons, and people liked them. But Walt had one problem. He focused only on creativity, not money. He gave away too many cartoons for free. He trusted people too easily. He had no business plan. Soon he had no money, no food, and nowhere to go. A train ride to the future. Walt didn't cry. Instead, he borrowed $500, packed a small suitcase, and took a train to Hollywood. He was only 21 years old, with just $40 in his pocket. He had no studio, no team, and no place to stay. But he had one thing, a dream, and the courage to follow it. The Little Mouse Who Changed Everything. Walt arrived in Hollywood in 1923. He had no studio, no team, and no big plans, only a small suitcase, a pencil, and a dream in his heart. He stayed in a tiny room with his Uncle Robert and paid only $5 a week for rent. There was no office, so Walt worked in a garage. In that garage, he created a short cartoon called Alice's Wonderland about a little girl who lived in a cartoon world. He sent it to a company in New York, Margaret Winkler Productions. To his surprise, they loved it and gave him a contract. But Walt knew he needed help, so he called his older brother Roy, who was sick in a hospital at the time. Roy believed in Walt's dream. He said, "Let's do it together, Walt." That's how Disney Brothers Studio was born. The rent for their first office was only $10 a month. They worked day and night, drawing each frame by hand. Slowly, they made enough money to survive. A Happy Rabbit and a Sad Surprise. In 1927, Walt created a new character, Oswald, the Lucky Rabbit. Oswald was funny, cute, and full of energy. Audiences loved him, and Walt thought his business would finally grow. But Walt had made one mistake. He didn't own Oswald. The company that distributed his cartoons, Universal Pictures, owned the rights. In 1928, Walt went to New York to ask for more money for Oswald's cartoons. Instead, he was told something shocking. Most of his animators had been hired away behind his back, and Oswald now belonged to Universal, not him. Walt was heartbroken. Once again, he had lost everything: his team, his character, and his money. He left the meeting quietly, with tears in his eyes. A Mouse on a Train. On the train ride back to California, Walt started drawing in his notebook. He thought, "They took my rabbit. I will make a mouse. A happy mouse. A smart mouse. A mouse who never gives up, just like me." That's when Mickey Mouse was born. This time, Walt made sure he owned the rights to his character. He and Roy registered Mickey's copyright under Walt's name so no one could steal him. Mickey's Big Break. At first, it was not easy. Walt made 2 short Mickey cartoons, Plain Crazy and The Galloping Gaucho, but no one paid much attention. He was running out of time and money. Then, Walt had a big idea: sound. In 1928, he released Steamboat Willie, the first cartoon with synchronized sound. The characters could laugh, whistle, and even talk. Audiences had never seen anything like it. They loved the funny little mouse on the steamboat. Mickey Mouse became a superstar overnight. The Disney family grows. With the success of Mickey Mouse, Walt's studio began to grow. He gave Mickey a girlfriend, Minnie Mouse. Then came more friends: Goofy, the silly dog; Pluto, Mickey's loyal pet; and Donald Duck, the funny, angry duck with a loud voice. Walt even gave Mickey his own voice. Yes, in the early years, Mickey spoke in Walt's cheerful voice. They also began selling Mickey Mouse items, pencils, lunchboxes, toys, books, and watches. Mickey was earning over $1 million a year, a huge amount in the 1930s. A crazy idea called Snow White. Even though Mickey was popular, Walt wasn't satisfied. He had a new dream to make the first full-length animated movie. No one had ever done this before. At that time, cartoons were only short and funny, just a few minutes long. When Walt said he wanted to make a 90-minute cartoon movie, people laughed and called it Disney's folly. They thought it would fail, but Walt didn't care. He chose the fairy tale, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. He wanted people to laugh, cry, and feel real emotions from a cartoon. The work was very hard. The team made over 2 million drawings. The cost grew from $250,000 to $1.5 million, so much money at the time. Walt even mortgaged his house and borrowed from banks to finish it. He worked so hard that he lost weight and could not sleep. Snow White's magic. In 1937, the movie Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs finally premiered. The audience was full of movie stars, reporters, and important people. At first, some were still laughing at the idea of a long cartoon. But when the movie began, the theater became silent. People laughed with the dwarfs, cried when Snow White was in danger, and cheered at the happy ending. For the first time in history, a cartoon had made grown men cry. Snow White was a huge success. It earned millions of dollars, more than any movie at the time. Walt paid all his debts, gave bonuses to his team, and built a bigger studio. He had proved that cartoons could be art. Dark clouds and new dreams. After Snow White, Walt made more beautiful movies: Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Bambi. But then World War II came. Many countries closed their movie theaters, and Disney lost a lot of money. There was also a strike at the studio. Many workers left, and Walt felt sad and betrayed. During the war, the studio made training films for the army to survive. But Walt never stopped dreaming. While spending time with his daughters at small amusement parks, he thought, what if there was a clean, safe place where families could have fun together? The birth of Disneyland. Walt began drawing plans for a magical park with castles, rides, shows, and themed lands. He called it Disneyland. To build it, he sold his life insurance, mortgaged his home, and even made a TV show to raise money. Construction was difficult. Things broke, the weather was bad, and many people said it would fail. But in 1955, Disneyland opened in Anaheim, California. On the first day, there were too many people, broken rides, and long traffic jams. The newspapers called it Black Sunday. But Walt didn't give up. He fixed the problems quickly. Soon, millions of visitors came every year. Disneyland had Main Street USA, Adventureland, Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, and Frontierland, each with its own magic. It became known as the happiest place on earth. A dream without end. Even after Disneyland's success, Walt started planning something even bigger, a city of the future called Epcot. But before he could build it, Walt became sick with lung cancer. On December 15, 1966, Just 10 days after his 65th birthday, Walt Disney passed away quietly in a hospital. The world cried, children, families, and even presidents. His brother Roy came out of retirement to finish Walt's dream in Florida. In 1971, Walt Disney World opened, 5 times bigger than Disneyland. Roy named it after his brother, so everyone would remember who dreamed it first. Walt's legacy. Today, the Walt Disney Company owns movies, theme parks, and stories loved all over the world. But more important than the money or buildings, Walt left a message. Dreams can come true if you believe and never give up. Walt started with no money, old newspapers, and a pencil, and he gave the world a castle. Friends, this is the end of Walt Disney's amazing journey, but it's also your beginning. Walt proved that even when the world says no, you can still say yes to your dream. Here at Chasing English, we believe your English dream can come true the same way. Read this story again tomorrow. Practice a little every day. One day, you will look back and see how far you've come, just like Walt did. If this story inspired you, like and share it so more people can learn and dream with us. And remember Walt's words, if you can dream it, you can do it.